Okay, it is, wow, it's July, actually. It's July 2nd. Today is Thursday. We're doing the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, for the Linchpin Athletics private Facebook group here. And I've gone through the questions, I saw which ones were upvoted, and we will start just diving through them and having a good time. And as always, these are some of my favorite videos and interactions because it's just, I don't know, it's fun. It's fun to interact with the community and answer specific questions that you have. So let's go. I'm still enjoying my coffee. All right, the first one with the most votes was from Amanda McDee's, 19 votes. Let's see, let me scroll through. Amanda, where was your question? Scrolling. We had a lot of comments. It might take me a second to scroll and find Amanda's question. Here it is. Oh, it's been upvoted once again and now has 20 questions. All right, here we go. I feel like bringing the weight down from a lift is hardly ever coached. What's the best way to bring down a snatch other than dropping it? How about a shoulder press? I feel like I make a good shelf when my elbows are up, but I've been told to drop them for the push upwards. Help. Okay, so good question. For the snatch, largely, I hate to say there's almost no good way to lower while holding onto it, because that's not entirely true. But largely, if you will be able to hold on to the bar and quote-unquote lower it in a movement like the snatch, will most likely depend upon, I know this is vague, but your capacity and then the loading on the barbell. If you're doing a very heavy snatch, even if you have the ability to potentially hold onto the bar and lower it, I personally would encourage an athlete of mine to drop it from the top. Now, if we're talking about something which is a little bit lighter for most people, like the workout Randy, 75 power snatches, 75 pounds for men, 55 for women, that's a loading that most people can safely lower down. If we get into the area of something like Isabel, so 30 snatches at 135 pounds for men, 95 pounds for women, there's a fair amount of people that can lower that down without what appears to be too much strain or duress on their shoulder or body. And they link reps together for something like that with the snatch. But here's a caveat to that. Just because they can, I'm not totally sold on the fact that they should. So just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. And there's an entire another separate category of people that at almost any loading, lowering something like a snatch in that wide grip where you're not really bringing it down to the rack position, you're kind of doing this controlled fall of the barbell where it hits people with varying levels of violence in their thighs or hip region. That's not something that in general I want to do to my body, and I don't want to have that sort of shockwave to my shoulders as well. So I'm really a big fan of just, again, unless it's something that you can handle easily and is quite light, like an SQT is another good example. Power snatches with 95 pounds or 65 pounds. Yeah, most people can cycle that with, I would say, in a comfortable manner. But anything above and beyond that, if it's the slightest bit uncomfortable, I wouldn't feel any social pressure, any social media pressure, any whatever pressure to hold on to that thing. I would just drop it from the top is what I would recommend for my athletes. I don't think it's worth it for a lot of folks. And maybe it slows you down a little bit on the overall time of the workout. Who cares? It's better to have shoulders and backs that feel wonderful 10 years from now than to ride a lift down, just to do a touch and go or something like that. For the shoulder press, now that shoulder press or a push press, that's something where, yes, your hands are in the proper width, you're set up for the rack position again, that most people, again, loading dependent, will find success in the descent should be somewhat controlled. You're not going to just lock the barbell overhead, release all muscular tension, have the barbell come crashing down onto your clavicle and front rack position. That's not going to treat anybody well. The descent should be controlled under your own power as well, and ideally at a speed and velocity that when it does come to a rest in the front rack position, isn't causing you pain and being an unpleasant experience, and that will obviously be load dependent. And if it does get to the point where you can't lower that load without some pain, then I would drop it from overhead. Now there's the potential for some people that maybe with some hip drive, you're able to get a load overhead that you don't have just the strict shoulder press strength to control the wonders of velocity and hip drive. So if that seems to be the case, then you could get yourself into a bit of a troublesome area, and then you could either just have to drop the weight so that you can control a bit better, or increase your strict press shoulder press, which will allow you ideally to handle a push press or control the descent on a push press with a little bit more accuracy because you've increased your strict press strength. So hopefully that I also have seen some people that just, I don't know why their clavicles and collarbones are built a certain way or react to weight a certain way, but I've seen some very capable athletes that are very strong and even using a weight well within their capacity, and they'll develop these bumps on their collarbone because for whatever reason their collarbone reacts that way and just forms this, I don't know if it's a calcification or what it is, and other people just never seem to develop that. So there could also be some individual difference as to just how your body in the front rack position reacts to that. So that's it. All right, so let's see. That was Amanda's question. Upvoted 20, good for Amanda. Winner of the day, 20 votes. Erica Sue Jackson, she had 18 votes, and I just checked a little bit ago. Let's see, Erica, where are you? Searching for Erica. Here it is. What does the future look like for CrossFit Health with the new CEO? And somebody else says they've been waiting to hear any word on this. This is an easy question to answer because I have absolutely no idea. So there's my answer. I'm not sure if I've heard the word CrossFit Health come out of his mouth yet, and that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it's something which is not on his radar. That doesn't mean it's something he's not passionate about. I don't know where it falls. It very well could be. I don't think there's some things, I believe they're still in the due diligence phase of the acquisition of the company, making sure that the books and everything lines up before they actually, close on the deal. So we may not find out some things until true ownership 100% passes over and he's actually driving the company and then can dig into a whole bunch of things. So we might not know that for a bit. But I will touch on this real quick, which is there is still, I believe, some confusion or ambiguity on this. So Linchpin Athletics is a full-fledged CrossFit affiliate. We are a CrossFit affiliate. Back when the world blew up, the CrossFit world, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, we were amongst the camp that was basically like, if true meaningful change and some significant things don't happen, we can't drive forward like this, and we wouldn't be able to continue with affiliation. But that wasn't what occurred. Wonderful, huge, meaningful, sweeping changes did occur, and based upon that, we are hopefully optimistic. And so we are remaining a CrossFit affiliate. So Linchpin Athletics is a 100% good to go, by the books, CrossFit affiliate. So we're hoping to be part of the positive change. I wish I had more information in the CrossFit Health thing, but I don't at this time. If that changes, I'll let you know. Let's see. Brandon, 18 votes. This will also be, I think, a relatively quick answer. Brandon, England. It got upvoted again. Brandon, you got bumped up to 19 votes. Would love to hear a good Dave Castro Navy SEAL story. So Castro and I went through SEAL training together in 1997, so 23 years ago, I guess. Time flies. And I will not be sharing a SEAL story. This is not the appropriate forum, and I wouldn't feel good letting a story about somebody else out without them, being a part of it. So we'll have to save that one for another time. My apologies, Brandon. My apologies. I hope you understand. Okay. Heather Robinson, 13 votes. Heather, what did you have here? Okay, let's see. Scrolling, looking for Heather Robinson. Where are you? Where are you? Stand by. Lots of comments to go through here. Here we go. Heather Robinson. Is it possible to make progress towards a skill when I only have 1 hour to work out 5 times a week? I'd love to make progress towards getting a bar muscle up, but don't want to work out for an extra half an hour for skill work. Any suggestions? Absolutely. So yes, it is definitely possible to improve skills being in and out of the gym in 1 hour and only having 5 hours a week. I watch this on a regular basis with my wife. I tend to dilly-dally a little bit when I get into the gym and things take me just longer. I don't know, I get distracted. My wife will go in there with a maniacal focus to just get it done and get out. And she will, warm up, do the workout, and be out of the gym. Unless it's a heavy day. Heavy days take a while. But most workouts, in and out, I can say easily in 45 minutes. Easily. And so that would leave you 15 minutes every day in that hour. So you can choose whatever skill that you want to embrace. And here's another thing. You can have anything you want. You just can't have everything. And so what I mean by that is you may have to put something to the side. If you've been doing the accessory work and love the accessory work, great, keep that up. And that might take you to just about using that entire hour. But if you truly want to be in and out in an hour and then you want something else, well, something might have to give a little bit. Maybe you cut down the accessory work or don't do it for a while and use that 15 minutes at the end to work on that bar muscle up, handstand walk, L-sit, whatever it happens to be. I'm a huge believer that if you had even, let's just say, 10 minutes left in that hour, 5 times a week, that is all you need. I don't care what you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. Because small chunks of work or improvement put in consistently will yield fantastic results, better than one large chunk a week. So, for an example, one of my favorite pastimes and hobbies is, I think the Spanish language is absolutely beautiful, and I've been studying Spanish for years, and sadly I've fallen off because there's only so many hours in the day. But when I would do it, what was the most effective is I would try to do 30 minutes of Spanish a day, 5 days a week. So that comes out to 2.5 hours a week of Spanish. Well, if it's not that it's just 2.5 hours, because I could get in that same 2.5 hours of studying if I only 1 day a week set aside a 2.5 hour block, and 1 day a week I studied for 2.5 hours and did nothing the other 6 days. I would make some level of improvement, but everything that life has taught me is I would in no way, shape, or form make the same improvements I would if I divvied that time up. So instead of 1 day a week doing 2.5 hours, if 5 days a week I did 30 minutes, my progress would be incredibly better with smaller chunks more frequently. So if you have 10 minutes a day and you can apply that 5 days a week and you do that week after week for however long it takes, I have absolutely no doubt you can improve your handstand, you can improve your squat snatch, you can improve your ring muscle up, your bar muscle up, whatever it happens to be, just stick with that. So yes, 100% possible. Keep the faith. It will happen. Consistency is amazing. Consistency is amazing. You just have to hang in there. All right. That was Heather's question. Naysauce, here we go. 12 votes. What have you got? Where are you? Where are you? I think you're more closer to the top. Looking for you. Looking for you. Naysauce, here we go. 14 votes got upvoted. If you can choose only one thing that would benefit your training and your life Would that be sleep, optimum nutrition, or accessory work? Cheers from Sweden. I'm going to take some liberties with this question. So my options are sleep, optimum nutrition, or accessory work. I'm going to assume that you're implying that all of those things right now are average, let's say, and not just absolute dog crap. So my sleep is, okay. Certainly would like to get a bit more, but it's not like I'm only sleeping 4 hours a night. I'm going to assume that you realize my nutrition is, let's say, average, some good days, some bad days, but it's not in the garbage every day, etc., etc. So if I had to order that list, I would say number one, I would personally think sleep. It would be tough if I had average sleep and average nutrition. Geez, now that I'm thinking about it, that really is tough. It just depends on how we're defining average. If I was getting 7 hours of sleep a night with average nutrition, well, then my number one thing would be optimum nutrition, and I'd keep the 7 hours of sleep. Now, if I had, okay nutrition, and I was getting only 5 hours of sleep a night, yes, then I would choose sleep. So I think in my mind, I would have to know which one was in a bit more of a deficit, and I would make that choice, be it sleep or nutrition. But the last thing that I would choose would be the accessory work. So sleep and nutrition, without question, would have more weight in improving my life, and I think probably most people's lives, than accessory work. The accessory work is optional for a reason, because those aren't just empty words. It truly is optional. You could live your whole life not do accessory work and be wonderfully fit. I literally know hundreds and hundreds of people that are living, breathing examples of that. So that would be my take on that. We're just making some progress today, aren't we? Dwayne Osgood, 10 votes. What do we got? Dwayne? I think you're near the top 2. You are. Oh, got upvoted again to 11. How to mingle marathon or sport-specific training? A massive question, even though it only has a few words in it. How to mingle marathon or sport-specific training, obviously, whilst doing Linchpin. The two are slightly different. Okay, sport-specific training could be. Well, let me answer the marathon one first. And what's cool is I would seek out somebody that knows the CrossFit space well, and it also is an expert in the realm of things such as marathon training. And Chris Hinshaw, awesome individual, good friend, runs aerobic capacity, and I would seek out some of his resources, because he blends the two worlds of CrossFit and training for long runs, and he does it very well. So that's my kind of short answer right there. But I also saw when I was scrolling through the Facebook comments this morning that this topic got brought up through coincidence in another thread. And Amanda Smith mentioned the Marine Corps Marathon, such a great race. So she's obviously run the Marine Corps Marathon. And she says, if you love running, maybe work in a couple Linchpin workouts a week and see how you feel. Back in my running days, I found a good weekly balance that looked something like 1 to 2 longer runs a week, 1 speed or sprint day, and 3 CrossFit workouts, mostly focused on strength and or gymnastics. Always at least 1 complete rest day, and always listen to my body with volume, intensity, and enjoyment. I think that is fantastic advice, for sure. The sport-specific training one is different because, for example, if you're a baseball player or a wrestler or something like that, well, you're going to have CrossFit, Linchpin can be your strength and conditioning program to make you better at your sport. Most sports are going to have you spend time in the gym, strengthening your body head to toe, improving your engine, etc., getting stronger. And that's exactly what Linchpin is. It's, my goal is to make it the world's best strength and conditioning program. And there's something we used to say at the level 1 seminars, we get a bit of a laugh, but it was illustrative of the point and very accurate, which is, You can be as fit as you want, but that doesn't mean you're going to hit a baseball out of the park. So you can develop this massive deadlift, an incredible hip opening through all the Olympic lifts that you do, and you're so conditioned that you never get tired. But that doesn't mean you know how to swing a baseball bat and hit a ball. You could be this physical animal, but you could still, if you're into jujitsu, you could still get choked unconscious in the first 30 seconds of a match because you don't know jujitsu, you don't know the technique. So linchpin or whatever else that you're doing should be your strength and conditioning protocol that you then use through your sport-specific training, to make you better at your sport. So you still need to go out and you need to go to batting practice. You need to go out and field ground balls. You still need to go to your jiu-jitsu class and roll for an hour and learn the techniques. But what you do in the gym is ideally just designed to give you the physical capacity to make that happen. So it should be your strength and conditioning protocol to make you better at your sport. And now it all just depends also if you're just a recreational athlete having fun, or are you a professional athlete, a collegiate athlete, is something where generally training volume is higher in the off season, and then as the playing season goes, the time in the gym can get reduced a little bit while the time in the field increases, and that's kind of a normal wave in which that occurs either. All right, Dwayne, good question. Tim Spears, 10 votes. Tim, what did you have? Oh, I think this will be a quick one. It's an honest but quick. I've followed the RP diet for a little while, and they recommend creatine supplementation. I have always wondered if this was effective. What are your thoughts? I don't really know a lot about creatine. I wouldn't feel good speaking about it. I know it's just something. Back in my military days, everybody seemed like they were taking it. I never did a lot of research on it, back in the old just meathead days, so I just took it and hoped for the best. But now, I don't take it, and I haven't spent a lot of time researching it, so I would feel professionally negligent if I made some sort of a recommendation on creatine. So my apologies, but I'm not going to be able to offer a lot on that topic without consulting people that I feel are more intelligent than me in that realm. Ken, 10 votes. Ken, oh, my pen just rolled off the desk. No worries. I got a backup. Okay, Ken Trones, 10 votes. Ken, what did you have? Let's see. Stand by, everybody. Got to do a little scrolling. Ken, all right. Ooh. I think Ken had 2 questions, didn't you? You did. Ken, you get 2 questions. Okay, and they both got 11 votes, so well done. Ken, seeing as we just did Tabata this, is it better to game the workout or go with an aggressive... Is it better to game the workout and go with an aggressive but sustainable goal per movement, or just come out guns blazing even if it lowers your score? Great question. Potential rabbit hole, by the way. So the Tabata protocol, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, it's 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. You do that 8 times, so it comes out to 4 minutes. So I think on Tabata this that we did the other day, you do the Tabata protocol, 4 minutes of work, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, 8 times. You do that on the rower, you rest 1 minute. You do it on air squat, rest a minute. Do it on the pull-ups, rest a minute, etc., etc. So, and the way that it's scored is, during those 20 seconds of work, with let's say you're on the pull-up bar, at the end of your 8 intervals, whatever's the lowest number that you achieved during any particular 20-second interval, that's your score. So if you come out crazy, you're a pull-up god, in the first 20 seconds, you get 20 butterfly pull-ups. You rest 10 seconds. In the next round, you get 19. Rest 10 seconds. Then it's 18. Anyway, by the end, the final 20-second interval, let's say you get 7 pull-ups. Your score is the lowest number that you got. So your score is 7. So the question becomes, was it smart or better to go out and just max it out every single solitary time, and you get the lower score of 7? Or should you have just tried to hold 8 the entire time, which seems like it would have been easier, and then you'd have a higher score to submit? You would have to check it out a little bit and see, like in the example that I just gave, which is probably, inflated, starting off at 20. But if you went, 20, 19, 18, blah, 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 you went down and the last one was 7, if you added up all the numbers that you got in the pull-ups, how many did you do? And let's say you did, I don't know, it turned out to be 100 pull-ups. And then, but your lowest number was 7 because you crashed and burned so much by the end. And then conversely, on the other one, you're like, I'm just going to hold 8s from the get-go. Well, you're going to hold 8s. There's 8 20-second intervals. So by the end of that, you got 64 pull-ups. So on number 1, you went out guns blazing. You did more pull-ups overall, but your single score was lower, 7. The other one, you held 8s the whole time. You got less pull-ups overall, but your score was higher. It's an interesting question. There's not one right or wrong answer there's not one right or wrong answer. This is what I would say. In general, these are generalities, doing more work in a particular amount of time is better, right? More work in the same period of time is more intensity. Intensity is one of the critical aspects of us getting fitter. The Tabata this just happens to be scored with the lowest number that you get. But there are other Tabata protocols that you just work as hard as you can for each of those 20 seconds, and your score is the total number that you got. And so the only reason that this becomes an interesting thing to consider is because in the Tabata score, your lowest number is what's going to count. So that can kind of play with your head a little bit. I would recommend, in general, now if I had an athlete and I was going to have them do this workout 4 times over the course of a year, we might try a different strategy each time to specifically get a different response out of them. But if I have to just give one general answer right now, then in general, I would encourage an athlete to move at a pace that, given the totality of the workout, meaning in a Tabata protocol for pull-ups, for example, you have to do 8 20-second intervals, 10 seconds of rest. I would want the athlete to move at a pace that when the 8 intervals come to a close, they have performed, obviously with safety and good form being paramount, the best number of pull-ups possible. So if to do that, it was a very high output from the very beginning, if that's what gave the best overall result for an athlete, then that's what that individual athlete might want to do. If for a different athlete, it's a significantly lower output, but yet will be sustained better, and therefore by the end of the 8 intervals yield them the best overall number, then that's what I would want them to do. So whether you're a guns blazing individual or more of a calculated, modulated is not the right word I'm looking for, but tempered, you're really controlling your pace better from the get-go, whichever one works for you overall, when you add up the 8 intervals, you did the most work. That's what I would encourage you to do. And if the Tabata this scoring system just happens to take your lowest one and you just did have one low one, whoop-de-doo. That's okay. And as your fitness increases, ideally that bumps up a little bit, and your overall and your lowest number is a little higher next time, and so your Tabata this score increases. So that would be the way that I would do that. Okay. Ken, good question. Ken, you had another one right after both 11 upvotes. Ken's crushing it today. All right, Ken's other question. When something like a shoulder press, 3 sets of 12, for example, is in the accessory work, for somebody who has a weak shoulder press, would it be more beneficial to do 3 by 12 at a lighter weight, or 3 by 8 at a heavier weight, or maybe vary it up each time that it comes around? Yes. So the answer is yes. You should do and embrace both. So when strict shoulder press comes up in the accessory work, we usually say 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. We give you that nice little window in there. So yes, it would make wonderful sense if, if it comes up one week, that you aim for 3 sets of 8 reps. The next time it comes up, 3 sets of 12 reps. Absolutely good to go. Variance is your friend. I would also encourage you, often when we program the shoulder press and the accessory work, we might give a couple other options as well. And I would sprinkle that in for variance too. And it could be, sometimes we'll do the shoulder press, but also give the option of maybe doing an overhead carry. Another option could be a SOTS press. Another option could be descent from handstand, a gymnastics movement, but still building tremendous shoulder strength. So not only varying the reps on the strict shoulder press, but then also mixing in the overhead carry, the SOTS press, the descent from handstand, etc., etc. Maybe one time you use a barbell, the next time you use dumbbells. All of those will get you to your end goal of being stronger on the press and being stronger overhead. So yeah, I would think that is definitely the way to do it. Okay. Kurt Hunter. Kurt, your question didn't get a lot of upvotes, but that's okay. I'm going to answer it because I think it's a good question. So warm-ups are super important, especially for an old, big, beat-up dude such as myself. However, in the interest of GPP, General Physical Preparedness, by the way, I did today's workout, which was probably the Tabata. I did today's workout with no warm-up. So in this episode of quote-unquote forgiveness instead of permission, is there some value to that? Just going out and doing some work with no warm-up. For example, I keep a bar in the garage with somewhere between 185 pounds and 225 pounds, and I just go deadlift it once every now and then with no prep, or just do some strict pull-ups to failure. Great question. And he mentioned also that there could be value for this in somebody who's police, first responder, where you may not get the opportunity to warm up, and people like to joke around and say that a cheetah or a leopard or a tiger doesn't warm up. It just breaks into a full sprint and goes after whatever it happens to be. I understand where the question comes from, especially from having been in the military as well. If something does come up, you're just going to go do it. You're not going to go through a mobility routine and then gently elevate your heart rate and do some arm circles and some shoulder pass-throughs, and that's just not going to occur. You're going to get your gear on and you're just immediately going to go. But that's just something which the uniqueness of that job demands. I would say for the overwhelming majority of people, even in those lines of work, I would highly encourage you to warm up as often as your schedule will allow. I think the warm-up is a critical part of just the general health and fitness protocol. I think it will strengthen and make your body and joints better. And then if you do have to, every now and then, just quickly go do something with no warm-up, at least you have strengthened your body to the best of your ability. Whereas if you do just have to go do something out of nowhere, whether you tweak your hammy or do whatever because you're just stone cold, that could be something, whether you do or not, it could be related to this preparation that you have or have not done, or it could be utterly and completely just luck that day based upon how your body felt, what you've done the last 1, 2, or 3 days. Those last 1, 2, or 3 days, did you warm up? Did you stretch? Did you cool down? Did you take care of yourself? How was your hydration? How was your food intake? How was your sleep? All of that might have a larger and greater effect. If you keep your body as fine-tuned and in the tip-top shape as you possibly can, then you're probably setting yourself up to have the least chance of tweaking yourself if you just have to go do something with no warmth whatsoever versus randomly just doing something every now and then without a warm-up. I don't think is going to teach your body to be ready to go to 0 to 100, especially as the years tick by and we enter our 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., etc. So my general advice would be as frequently as you can to warm up and to treat it, to respect it. It's incredibly valuable, and I think that will treat you better than anything else. And like I said, I get it. I get the demands of that job and how you do have to be ready to just go. And if you have to do a down man drill and grab your 220-pound buddy off the ground and throw him on your shoulders and move him 400 meters, you just have to grab him and go. You're not going to have the opportunity to do some warm-up sets before that. Like, I get that. But I think your greatest opportunity to be prepared to grab that 225-pound individual off the ground is to have been taking the best care of your body possible leading up to when that event happens to take place. So that would be my take on that. Okay, two more. Covering a lot of ground here. Andrew, I think you were the next one. Andrew, let's see what we got. Looking, scrolling. Stick with me, everybody. Andrew, where are you? Andrew. Where the heck is it? Oh, here we go. Andrew, what is your favorite movement to program? Easy question. Thrusters. Not even a hesitation right there. And I'll even be a bit more specific. Dumbbell thrusters. Absolutely fantastic. Maybe a close second to that would be dumbbell squat cleans. What is the movement that you personally hate to do? Movement that I personally hate to do. Even though I just said that I love thrusters, I hate anything overhead. It's critically important, and we program it all the time because I don't program for me. But yeah, overhead is just, with my terrible neck and shoulders from the military motorcycle wrecks, overhead is just, I don't like it. So yeah, that's no good for me. And then, final question we'll dive into here. This didn't get a lot of upvotes either, but I think it is a tremendously important question and people will benefit from it. Derek, I enjoy doing both handstand walks and overhead squats. A friend of mine, but I guess he had this conversation with a friend. A friend said to me, "You say what you do is functional fitness. What's functional about handstand walks and overhead squats?" So how do you respond to that? All I could think of is, if I ever lost my legs, I could still walk around. Best I could do in short notice. But for overhead squats, I had no sarcastic reply. Fantastic question. So yes, that can be troublesome, right? Like, we're doing functional movements. We say we're preparing for real life in the real world, and the movements that we do are found out there in nature, but I've never seen an overhead squat take place, and it's really tough to say why you'd have to walk in your hands. And what's the deal with double unders, right? So there are some movements that we do in the gym that, while potentially you won't see them perfectly replicated in nature, the reason that we do them is because they have tremendous transference to making what we need to do in real life better. So for example, a great example is the full snatch, the squat snatch. You don't see anywhere in nature somebody grab something on the ground, violently open their hips up, pull themselves under the object, receive it locked out overhead with their arms up there, below parallel in a full squat, and stand it up. Absolutely exists nowhere. And as a matter of fact, if you had to get an object from the ground to overhead, the biggest lifts in the world are done with the clean and jerk, the full clean and jerk. So if you had to pick one movement that actually gets the most weight overhead, it's the clean and jerk. It's not the full snatch. So why in the world do we do the full snatch if it doesn't exist anywhere on the planet? We do the full snatch, even though you won't see it in the grocery store or wherever it happens, on a baseball field, because the explosiveness, the athletic prowess required, the power, the speed, the demands of flexibility, the neurological components, the coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance, what's required of your central nervous system to have your body move in such a sequence so quickly under loading. All of those things, if you can excel at them, you have developed a capacity and you are capable in ways that simpler movements just don't have. Look at how simple a bicep curl is, for example, and I'm not saying that doesn't have utility, but without knowing anything else about a particular person, if I told you so-and-so can do 5 bicep curls with 135 pounds, you might know something, or you might have an idea as to what that athlete can do, but you have a whole lot of holes in there that you've got no idea. You just know they can do 5 curls with 135 pounds. But if I say this other athlete, I'm not going to tell you anything about them, they can full snatch 225 pounds. Both of those are just single points of data that you have, but that one single point of data of what's required to do a full snatch at 225 pounds, or fill in your favorite loading, tells you a whole heck of a lot more about what that athlete is capable of, how they can move their body through complicated things, and there's a good chance that they excel in a tremendous amount of other areas because there's transference. Same with the handstand walk. You don't see it in regular life, but the overhead strength, the balance, the coordination makes, I guess an easier way to say it is, we not only do functional movements and compound multi-joint movements, but there are some things we do that are complicated movements. And a lot of multi-joint movements can be complicated because you have to move your body in a particular sequence to properly execute the technique and successfully achieve the movement. And this might be an oversimplification, but generally speaking, if you spend your time on complicated tasks, on challenging tasks, be it both physically and mentally, neurologically, then that usually translates to being able to achieve, with some level of success, simpler tasks. Whereas if you spend your time just doing simple tasks that don't require a lot of thought or those neurological components, the simple tasks don't really transfer over to capacity in the more complicated tasks. So yes, if you can walk on your hands and do an overhead squat and do a full snatch and things like that, while they may not be things that you see in everyday life, the capacity that is developed by pursuing such technically complicated movements will make most things that you do in the gym and most challenges that cross your path in life simple by comparison. And because of that, we embrace movements like that. So there are just some things that you get a lot of bang for your buck out of, even though you may not see them with your eyes. And even particularly a simpler movement, an L-sit. You don't generally see an L-sit in the real world, right? You would think somebody belonged in an insane asylum if you saw people randomly just sitting on chairs, propping themselves up with their arms with their legs jutted out, and in restaurants you'd be like, what is this person doing? That's bizarre. That doesn't make sense. I've never seen that. So even though you don't see the L-sit in nature, the midline stability that comes from working the L-sit makes everything that we do in real life, everything that we do in sport, and everything that we do in the gym better. So there are some things that do require a little bit more of a lengthy explanation as to why we do that. And again, same deal with double unders. Yeah, it's a conditioning movement, but it's a conditioning movement that requires you to use your mind, and you have to move in a proper pattern that while you're fatigued, you still have to have your brain engaged while fatigued. And you have to use, again, those neurological components of coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance. And doing that, pursuing complicated movements, is just tremendously beneficial. Tremendously. So, yeah, that's why we do them. So, anyway, let me see if I missed anything too much. Okay. Michael, okay, first time he's been able to watch the live feed here. Good, I'm glad. Let's see. Dumbbell thrusters, I know dumbbell thrusters are crazy. All right, all seem to be good to go. So that's it. Have a great day. It's a rest day. As always, I highly encourage you to take it. And we'll do another one of these next week. And to the Linchpin community, thanks for being awesome. See you later.